And welcome to The Breakdown, ThePapare.com's very own segment where we bring you everything that is rugby in Sri Lanka. And today we have good news for all the Sri Lanka rugby fans. 8 debutants are travelling with the Sri Lankan team to the Rugby Asia, the Asian Rugby Division 1 Championship, Shanaka. This will be held in Malaysia. Last year we were the runners-up and we went down to Fijian field Malaysian team, but this time they will be looking for a better result.
Well, I hope so. I really hope they do, because I think at the time that we were playing a few years back, Sri Lanka making it through to the Asian and only losing to the likes of Japan and maybe Korea and Hong Kong, that was where we were. But at the moment, if we are losing to teams like Malaysia, if we are struggling with teams like Singapore, then we have to take a look at ourselves and ask where we have gone backwards. But as far as these debutants are concerned, I think all of them really deserve their place. Lots of third row players as well, a few guys out wide. Nishan Pereira I thought was outstanding this season, as was Umesh Madhushan for Havelocks and Joel Pereira for Police. But quite a few guys who really deserve their places. Hopefully some of them will start.
Absolutely, Shanak. And Tilna Vijay Singh from Kandy Sports Club, we thought that he was the best number 15 in the club's rugby season. He's gotten his maiden call-up. And also interesting addition, Richie Dharmapala and Richard Dharmapala, both of them becoming debutants. Of course, yes, Richard Dharmapala is a regular member in the 7th circuit, but 15th is the first time that he's representing the country. Well,
he was quite electric, wasn't he? Especially in the game against Havelocks, I thought he was the one that really changed the game, with a good understanding with the players inside him as well. And with Fasil Marija coming back, playing in outside his club fly half, I think they might be looking to get some combinations going there as well. But Tiruna Vijay Singh, my only concern is about his size, whether he's able to handle international rugby. But then you look at guys like Damien McKenzie, who has been selected for the All Blacks, or is a player for the Chiefs as well. He's just very, very small. So at fullback, you can survive if your technique is good. And I think Tiruna Vijay Singh has excellent technique.
And also talking about the international stars, what about Aaron Cruton? He's not a big man, but he's not afraid of tackling any of those big forwards that he encountered day in, day out.
Yeah, well, Tiruna Vijay Singh brings a lot of kicking stability as well, so he'll be able to play the territory game as far as Sri Lanka needs as well. So it's a great selection, and I think if we get the selection right, if we get our game plan right, the only problem is conditioning, because the boys have been off rugby for a while, especially the forwards. So if we can get that right in the last 3 weeks, then, you know, Bob's your uncle.
Let's hope that Sri Lanka will be able to win this tournament and get the promotion up to the top division, because they will have to play with the third place team, possibly South Korea, because Hong Kong and Japan are looking good. Japan have already clinched the top title, so possibly Korea, and we will be able to go into the top level.
Well, we need to get into that promotion battle, because we've got 2019, that's Asia's World Cup. Japan are through, there's another berth available, and if Sri Lanka plan well, there's no reason we can't compete with Hong Kong for that berth.
So let's hope for the best. Asia starts on the 14th of May and will continue till the 17th. Interesting stuff happening in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka schools rugby, and we had Trinity College coming back to winning ways against St. Joseph's.
After going into the halftime break 2 points adrift, Sudarshan, we were watching the game and we thought, okay, has the Trinity team done another one? Are they going to have the same kind of performance that they did against St. Peter's? And St. Joseph's, I think, didn't help themselves in the second half. They dropped the ball so many times. If you look at the error count that they had in terms of just ball handling errors, I think it was huge, and that's what really let them down against Trinity. But Trinity did well to come back. They had a lot of ball, but somehow it felt like they were trying to force things. They were trying to score off the second and third phase instead of just being patient and scoring off maybe the 6th, 7th or 8th phase. So that's something that this Trinity forward pack need to think about as well. They need to be patient, especially against a team like Isipathana, who they're coming up against next. And if they don't try to force the pace, then they're a better team.
And also, Shanaka, you spoke about how Josephians did not help themselves, and in the second half, yes, there has been a huge cry about the referees' decisions going against them. But if you look at the first half, Trinity came back into the game, having been behind St. Joseph's in the first half. During that 10 minutes, Sean Akila was in the sin bin, and that was absolutely unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. I mean, I watched him running about 30 meters from the middle of the pitch to the outside of the pitch to confront, I can't remember who the Trinity player was, and it was completely it was irrelevant. He was not even in the fight. And that's something that I just don't understand. And he went to the sin bin, rightly so. I think the referee got that call spot on, that he went to the sin bin for that. And I think he did well also not to penalize any of the other players who were involved, and just a player that ran across, because that's the thing that the World Rugby wants referees to frown upon, the third guy coming in and retaliating. So that's something that I thought the referee got spot on. And when Akila was out, they had a man out wide, and that position was wide open. And that's when Trinity scored and started coming back into the game. So St. Joseph's can maybe they want to complain about some decisions, but they need to look at themselves also.
Okay, and also, Shanaka, we need to take a look at the Trinitian aspect of it. They were very brave coming into the first half without a kicker, and like you said, they were 2 points adrift at the half time, but they left 15 points in the park without coming into the first half without a place kicker.
Well, it's like you can't win a league title, say in the Barclays Premier League, without a goalkeeper. Similarly, you can't and shouldn't be able to win league titles without a place kicker, Sudarshana. So that's something that Trinity need to look at as well. They need to have a backup. What if Lashan Vijayasuriya gets injured? What are they going to do then? So if this is their backup, it's just not good enough yet. And I think we had a couple of seasons ago where Isipathana had a champion side, but they didn't get Kayan Vikramatne kicking until quite late in the piece. So you've got to realize in the off-season, you've got to have a guy who can kick those 2-pointers, kick those 3-pointers, and help your forwards. And I think that's the problem that Trinity had at the moment, because their forwards are doing quite a bit of work, but they're getting no reward. They're not getting that respite of a kicker taking a minute off, knocking over the 3 points, coming back, starting again. That kind of help they're not getting from their kickers. So that doesn't give them a lot of confidence either. So as a result, they're trying to make things happen, and that's where things are going awry for them. So they really need to focus on Lashan Vijayasuriya being able to play as a kicker, and if he's not available or if he's dropped for performance, then they need to pick someone else who can kick.
So end of the day, Trinity College went home with the victory, 30 points to 25 at full time. We move on to the next game. Zahira College versus Royal was thought to be a close affair, but Royal basically running away with it.
Yeah, I think the technique that this Royal College side has shown is just too much for a newly promoted team. Sudarshan, I think Zahira have done really well to come this far, because you watch the other promoted teams, a lot of them have gone down back to the plate competition, and these guys have managed to stay up at the expense of more fancy teams like St. Anthony's and people like that. So I think all credit to them, but I think they've hit the tipping point at the moment, Zahira. I think they don't have enough depth to come up against teams like Royal College so late in the season, and they're missing a few of their key players as well. And I don't think the weather really helped them as well. It was a wet Saturday, and Zahira come to run the ball at you as much as they can. So Royal reveled in those conditions, and they just tucked the ball under and just kept hammering. And physically, I don't think the Zahira forwards can match the Royal forwards. When you've been doing so much damage control up front, you fatigue, and that's when people can score outside you. So credit to Royal for all the tries that they scored. They got as many as 11 tries, and they were due a big score. I think the Thomian game has really given them a lot of confidence. So Trinity better watch out.
Shanaka, you mentioned something about how technically savvy this Royal team is, and also the conditions. What we saw was at St. Thomas's, against St. Thomas's, Royal decided to run at the line. But here at Zahira, wet conditions, Royal forwards put their heads down and they were really in the grind. We see Hamza Riza became the highest try scorer of the season, scoring 4 tries in this game. So Royal pack was in motion.
Absolutely, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sudarshan, I don't think Hamza played against Isipathana. I think he may have been injured. I think he was injured for that game. And when he comes into this pack, there's a huge amount of leadership that he brings with him. He's experienced, he knows when to do what. And I think that's a big aspect of this Royal team that has gone unnoticed so far, because he's not a flashy player, he's not a guy who runs with the ball, but in the tight he does some really good stuff. And he keeps those forwards going forward, as it were. And I think he's a hugely important player for this side, just like Janit Dirishan is, just like Ovinaski is. He's a hugely important player for those forwards. He's the guy who leads that pack, and I think his loss was felt against Isipathana. And I think if he was there, they may even have won that game and blown the league title out of the water. But the way that he went into this game, I think he realized early on this is where this game is going to be won. And although against St. Thomas's they started to run the ball and Johnny the Dilshan came more into the game, guys like Sabit Feroz and Mohammad Shakib came into the game as well. Royal have now shown that they can play that as well. For them in the first half of the season, all they were doing was the forwards work and they didn't have anything to back it up with. Now it looks like they have that as well.
So there you go, Royal College running away with that 65 points to 14. Was the score in Maradona not what Zahira expected, but they will be looking to put in a better performance in the coming 2 weeks. Let's move on to the next game. Westcott is taking on St. Peter's. Wesley keeping their title hopes alive and humbling the Peterites.
Yeah, well, there's 4 teams in it, aren't there, Sudarshana? Wesley, one of those teams, Royal, another one of those teams, and of course Trinity, whom we spoke about, and we'll speak about Isipathana next. But Wesley, I think they've got game breakers, Sudarshana, which is not something a lot of the other teams have. They may have 1 or 2, but Wesley have a few game breakers. They have both lead twins who can break a game open from anywhere. They've got Murshid Zubair, I think, who's playing really well at the moment. Nobody really talks about him playing really well. And Sashika Fernando and Dayan Sabah in the forwards also. Those are guys that can make things happen. So I think Wesley, while playing as a really good unit, they also got these X-factor players all over the park, which are a little unpredictable sometimes, but when they come off, it looks really good.
You spoke about Wesley having game breakers, but remember this game also Wesley played without their captain Dennis Tagunateleko. So we need to applaud Avish Kali for the leadership role that he takes in that team, and he was the ThePapare.com's player of the match, scoring 2 tries, and he was spot on with his conversions as well.
Yeah, that's another thing he brings to the park. If you remember the game against Zahira, it was him who really scored that pressure conversion late on in the game to put them ahead, and in order to win that game as well. So they're not guys who really, they're very confident and they don't suffer under the pressure, and that's something that really rubs off against the rest of the team as well. You look at Imesh Aponzo also as a guy who scored 2 tries, and against Zahira once again he was a guy who scored the important try that broke that game open. So he's another guy that we haven't really talked about, but is very important to that Wesley team. So I think Wesley just 1 through 15 have a little bit more quality than St. Peter's do, and so I'm not surprised that they managed to win that game. But they will be a little worried that they only managed to score the 1 try in the second half. They want to finish games off on a high. They want to last at 80 minutes. So that's something that's going to come to haunt them perhaps against Royal College when they play them, because Royal are an 80-minute team and Wesley need to be probably an 85-minute team to beat them.
Peterites, just when they looked like they were going to come back into the suffered a big loss of Steven Sivaraj, who's their linchpin in that team. He was tactically brilliant in their grounds and he put his team in front, but that was unfortunate that they lost him. But Peterites, like you said, did not look like they would have the quality to outsmart 15 to 15 when it comes to the Double Blues. Let's move on to the next game. Isipathana College taking on St. Thomas's. Isipathana, half-time it was 19-7. Again, the St. Thomas's College rugby team giving away what they have done in the first half in the second half, 41-21. The final score?
Well, I think the scoreline is a little bit flattering towards Isipathana, Sudarshana, to be quite honest, because it was 21-29 until maybe the last 10 minutes of play, and that's when St. Thomas's are an inexperienced side. They lost their composure, and I think they were just too fatigued at that time. Kicked the ball away to Chamod Fernando. He made the magic happen, and they scored 2 very quick tries. So they went from 29 to 41 in a matter of a couple of minutes. But until then, St. Thomas's had really been competing, and watching them, they played like they did against Trinity. They came and put out some fight, which is why I think Thomian fans are disappointed with last week's performance, because they didn't put up a fight against Royal. And the fight they put up against Isipathana was much better with a young team, and missing Hans Walpola as well, a couple of positional changes also that they had to go through. So I think St. Thomas's did well, but Isipathana showed a little bit of vulnerability around the fringes. That's something that they're going to have to fix quickly if Lotte Raikambula is not going to notice that on the video. So that's something they're going to have to deal with, but their defensive line-out was excellent. Isipathana will need to work on their offensive line-out as well. But once again, they've got players who can come through for them. Normally it's Chamod Fernando. This time it was Randy Silva who came through for them. He just controlled that game beautifully at that number 10 position along with Harith Bandara. And when you've got halves who are playing so well together, I think it's going to be very difficult to beat them, Sudarshana, but it wasn't their best performance at all.
So after the second week of the second round of schools rugby, there is no difference in the points table. Trinity on top, Isipathana, Wesley and Royal College, all with a chance to win the league. Shanaka, how do you see the points table?
Well, that's because all of them have lost just one match each. So it all depends on who wins what, Sudarshana. So Trinity is still ahead. Royal will be unlucky, I think, not to climb up a couple of paces after that big win against Zahira College. But it hasn't seen any changes at the top. Trinity, Isipathana, Wesley, Royal, all those teams in with a chance. And what a wonderful tournament when we're going into the last 2 weeks and there's still 4 teams in it. That's awesome to see. And there's still a battle going on. St. Joseph's, St. Peter's, St. Thomas's, so all the Saints are battling for that 5th place. So if St. Thomas's win their next 2 matches against Peter St. Joseph's, they can go up into 5th place, but that's what all the other 2 teams also will be hoping. So Zahira, I think it may be a little bit of a step too far for them, and they may have to be content with 8th place, but you know, let's not forget what a joy they have been to watch this season. And
let's move on to the next week's clashes. St. Thomas's taking on St. Joseph's, Saints clash. Like I said, it's going to be important for their 5th place finish, and Zahira taking on St. Peter's.
Yes, that Lady Jayatilaka Shield clash is going to be huge because St. Joseph's will want to put some unflattering defeats behind them. They didn't help their cause against Trinity. They dropped the ball so many times, and coming up against St. Thomas's, they'll obviously have a little bit more confidence against a team they feel they can beat. But if the Thomians play with the kind of grit that they played against Isipathana, then who knows, they might even be able to win that game. So at the moment, I would think that St. Joseph's go in as favourites, but St. Thomas's will give them a few problems to think about as well. And St. Peter's taking on Zahira, it's again a banana skin game for St. Peter's. They will absolutely have to win that one, but Zahira will feel, hey, if Steven Sivaraj's injury is serious enough to keep him out for next week, then perhaps this is a game that we have for the taking.
And the next 2 games, mouth-watering clashes. Royal College take on Wesley, and Trinity College take on Isipathana. Trinity's only 2nd game at home.
Well, I think that's a huge factor in their favour as well, Sudarshana. Not a lot of people play at Pallakale, to be honest. So it's quite a difficult place to travel to, and you know, especially with Trinity's support being what it is, it's going to be really difficult for Isipathana to come and play the kind of game they usually do from the kickoff. They're probably going to take about 10-15 minutes to settle into that game, and that's where Trinity have to exploit them. They have to hit them really hard at the front if they are going to try and win that game. It's a must-win game for Trinity. If they don't, they can kiss their league title goodbye. Their 30-year ambitions down the drain once again. But luckily, Pallakale, that's going to be the place that they're playing Trinity.
Interesting, Shanaka, because I personally think Pallakale grounds being that large suits the Isipathana type of game better, because they have more space. They will be looking to run from all angles because it's a large ground. You have the 50-meter width. Exactly. So Isipathana would be fancying their chances there.
I don't know whether it's so much the width of the ground, Sudarshana, as the fact that it's quite cavernous. And when you walk in, it's really imposing. You've got that stand coming up on one side, the stand coming up on the other side, and you kind of have to walk down into this kind of hollow of a ground. So it can be a little bit intimidating for teams that don't play there often. And this Isipathana side is a pretty young side as well. Lots of these guys are playing their first full year at first 15 level. So I'd be surprised if Trinity don't exploit that home ground advantage, especially knowing which way the sun is going and stuff like that.
Royal Complex will be hosting Royal, and the Double Blues, who have been very jubilant. They've only lost 1 game, that also at the start of the season. That's going to be a very important clash.
Huge clash, huge clash. And if there's one team that I think can take Royal on, I think it's Wesley, because they've got some good forwards, they've got some weight in that front row. They're well drilled. You've got Dulanchana Vijay who's been doing a lot of work with these guys. Their set piece is not terrible, and you've got Avishka Lee, who can really put pressure on the opposition scrum half. So if that ball doesn't go out, then it's going to be a little bit problematic for them to get field position, and Royal thrive on field position. So if their line speed is good, and if Avishka Lee can really put pressure on Owinaski, then things are going to look a bit difficult for Royal College. But at the moment also, I think Royal probably favourites in that game, but look for an upset.
So there you go, brilliant games to look forward to this weekend, and you can catch the action on www.thepapare.com. And last week, Shanaka, we asked a question, who the viewers thought was the best team coming out from the break. We agreed on Royal College, but there were comments, especially on the YouTube YouTube page. Wesley College and St. Peter's, they thought were contenders for that. Yes, Wesley College have done well after losing to Kingswood in the Elite Blase, and also St. Peter's were the giant killers, but we thought that performance-wise, all round, Royal was a better team.
Yeah, we did, and I think there's enough evidence for that if you want to back it up. But again, it's just your opinion and my opinion. Everybody else can think, you know, what they think with good reason as well. So, you know.
There you go. So this week I have another question, Shanaka. Do you think and can Wesley be the dark horse to win the title?
I don't think they're the dark horse. I think they're odds on one of the favorites as well. I think Trinity have set the stall out so early because of that huge win against Wesley, and everybody started talking about them because they had a wonderful start to the season. But Isipathana, Royal and Wesley have been slowly creeping up on them. So yes, it's Trinity's to lose at the moment, but Wesley is one of the teams they could easily lose the title to.
So there you go. Tell us what your opinion is. 4 teams. It's very interesting. It's been a while. Schools League has been this interesting. We are going into the penultimate week of this second round. It's going to be a very interesting week. It's been a while since 4 schools were in action in the penultimate week, 2 in the league. So let us know who you think will be the league victors of Singer Schools League 2017. And until next time, I'm Sudarshana signing off alongside Chanaka Amarasinha. Share the passion.